just ignore the state of my hair and nails today, shall we? Hey everyone! So today I am going to be doing a book review. Yay! Say all of you. So I'm going to be reviewing Mira Jacobs' The Sleepwalker's Guide to Dancing, and I read this about 3 weeks ago now, and the characters are still in my head. The storyline is still in my head. It's just one of those books that sticks with you, and I'm really glad it did. So clearly this is going to be a positive review. I found this book through my creative writing program, actually. Mira Jacob did a reading for us for a segment of the book that was pretty funny, and then I just had to read this, and the paperback was coming out in like 3 weeks, so I didn't actually read it right away. What I did do was find out that she was hosting another panel that was free, so I went to that and then also got the book signed by her when I bought it. See? I got it signed. Woo! I love signed books. Yeah, I got the chance to see her and meet her, and it was really lovely, and then finally I read the book, and it lived up to all of my expectations and exceeded them. Mira Jacob is an Indian American author who is also Suryani or Syrian Christian, which is such an interesting point of view because I've never read a book by a Syrian Christian before. And there's so much about the culture that I don't know, but there's so much about this book that I did connect to being an Indian American. Like, I totally understood a lot of what was going on, but also a lot of it was new discovery, which was really, really fantastic. Okay, so what this book is about now is this girl named Amina, and it kind of takes you throughout her whole life. There are 2 different timelines in the book. One is when Amina is a teenager, she's just starting high school, and the other is when Amina is an adult and she is in her, she's 30 years old, and in the 30-year-old part, she's a photographer who has this really, really famous tragic photo, and it, set the whole world by storm, but Amina herself hasn't taken journalistic photos like that for a very long time, or even artsy photography photos. She's become a wedding photographer, actually, because she just can't take the pressure that comes with being that kind of photographer. So that's where Amina is at when she's 30 years old. And when she's a teenager, she has this older brother named Akhil, who she really looks up to, and he is going through some things, and she has to kind of deal with him. And he is very much a rebellious older brother. He's incredibly smart, and he is one of those guys that, always raises his hand in class to argue with the teacher over some philosophy that you've never even heard of. That's the kind of older brother Akhil is, and Amina looks up to him but also kind of knows who he is by now because she's becoming a teenager and coming into her own. And then when she's 30 years old, she's dealing with her father, who's struggling a lot and kind of going, which is very tragic. Something tragic also happens with Akhil when they're teenagers, so it kind of juxtaposes the two, but also it flashes back to a time they were in India visiting family, and how that entire familial background plays into both storylines and how they are all just so interconnected. And it's just such an interesting book to read from that perspective, but it's also a really, really good storyline. It's got the struggles with immigrant parents and everything, but it's also got being an American sort of struggles, and it's got it's not your typical Indian American story. I will give you that, because I've read quite a few of those, and mostly it's Joy Luck Club style struggles between the immigrant customs and American ideals and stuff like that. And this book has some of that, definitely, but it's not so prevalent. What's more interesting are the characters. Amina's mother is so interesting because she's trying so hard to save her husband and help her son, and also she's like in denial and she's very closed off. And then Amina has to deal with all of that plus her mother. So it's just very interesting. It's very interesting because it's very much a story about a girl coming home to her family, but it's also a story about puzzling out your family and finding your place in it, while also being about kind of figuring out who you want to be. And there's also a love story in here, and I love love stories, and it's very much a side story to like the main story, but it really helps. And it's like a Sweet Home Alabama meets Immigrant Family meets like photography story. I don't know how to explain it. It's a very good book. Read it. And another thing I love about this book is the language in it. If you turn to any page, there are such interesting sentences that like, it's just so rich to read this kind of story. Okay, this one's a good sentence. Amina wavered in the middle of the room, momentum shooting off to equally impossible outcomes. She wanted to be back in Seattle. She wanted to be in her car already, driving back to Corrales. She wanted to be back to the night in the park with his collarbone on her tongue. A fresh puff of dust motes flew into the air between them. Oh, this is a good sentence. By mid-meal, 3 forks had also been lost to the bubbling broth, covered by chunks of meat, cabbage, snow peas, and tofu, and there was a bit of chest puffery from the men over who had made the best dipping sauce. It's like, it's such a fun book, even though like the themes in it are very sad and depressing. Mira Jacob makes it very lively, which is so good, and there's so much funny stuff in it because, I mean, the scene Mira Jacob read, it's not very much spoilery, but it's when the mother, Kamala, finds out that her son, Akil, has had sex. And anyone with Indian parents must know that that reaction is not gonna be a pretty reaction. And then Amina's stuck in the middle of it and just witnessing this exchange, and it's just so funny, and you can really hear the mom's accent in it, which kind of makes it funnier, but also just makes it more realistic. And it's just so good. I really love this book. I give it 5 out of 5 stars because it is just that good. Everyone should read it. I will see you guys next time. Bye.